Welcome to Heal With Divinity. I'm your host, Keerthana Venkatesh, and this space is dedicated to one simple but profound truth, which is that healing happens when the mind, body, and soul are allowed to speak their own languages. Today's episode is all about language that many of us have forgotten, which is art. Not art as a performance, not art as a talent, but art as expression, regulation, and returning home to one's own true self. My guest today is Sravani Ramachandran. She's an artist, an HR professional. She also calls herself an inclusion advocate and someone whose life journey has deeply embodied the idea that the body may change, but the soul's voice does not go silent ever. After an accident in 2011 that left her paraplegic, Shravani chose creation to heal herself. And alongside a very successful corporate career at Infosys, where she leads inclusive hiring and engagement initiatives, Shravani has also made art her purpose and her platform. She has been exhibiting widely. She creates annual themed calendars for over a decade. So please check out the description of the video to pick up your copy. And she is also the founder of Art from the Heart, which is a very powerful exhibition space for artists with different abilities. But what truly drew me to this particular conversation with Shravani is not just about what she has done so far, it is about how she has allowed art itself to become a bridge between pain and possibility and between the nervous system and the soul. So, Shravani, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you here on Heal with Divinity. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Keerthana. It's truly an honor to be with you over here.
So, Shravani, your journey shows how art didn't enter your life as a hobby, right? It rather emerged as a lifeline after the accident. So, getting to the heart of this conversation, when someone is in emotional pain, why do you think art often becomes like the language the soul chooses before words?
Well, Keerthana, actually, if you're, let's say, looking at, language, right? What happens is when you're in pain, right? Your thoughts are very clouded, right? It becomes difficult to explain words, right? And there is always that constant thing that, if, let's say, I say something wrong, what if, let's say, it is not perceived the same way, and what if I am being judged because of what I'm being told? But that is not the case, with art, right? It's just about, it's just out over there, right? It's like a release. It's like, basically, while of course the mind is kind of, trying to make sense of, the emotion, the body and the soul just need a release, and that's where, expressing art becomes a lot easier. It just kind of, acts as a vent at that point of time. So that fear of judgment is just not there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Right. No, no, no. That's absolutely true. And that resonates very deeply because pain, I think, often bypasses language and settles directly into the body. So in moments of very deep emotional struggle, the mind often asks, why me? Um, while the body holds on to the pain. So how does engaging with art help shift this internal dialogue? Not by forcing answers, but by probably allowing like some sort of release.
Well, the why me kind of stays as a rhetoric, right? Regardless of of your disability or of, let's say, your state. That I suppose is a rhetoric. But what art, at least in the way I look at it, art it kind of doesn't really answer the why, but what it does is it kind of softens uh the struggle, or let's say the grip of that question, right? No, so because when you are, let's say, out there, really kind of expressing yourself, trying to kind of work on something, wouldn't really say masterful, but basically just kind of trying to create something which is maybe a reflection of your state of mind at that point of time. What it does is, because you're so engaged in that, it just kind of calms you down, right? No, so because you're so focused on the movement, right? And
Hmm.
the intensity of the question reduces, primarily because your thoughts are on that particular piece that you're working on, so the intensity of the question reduces. And I suppose it all kind of comes down to the thing that the moment you stop demanding answers, something kind of within you, you see that something within you starts easing again, right? So that
Right.
kind of helps you handle the why me a lot better. Even if, let's say, it's not a direct answer per se.
Right. In several conversations that we have had prior to this podcast, formal and formal, you've spoken a lot about moving from victimhood to resilience. So, from an energy perspective or energetic perspective, what happens when someone creates from pain rather than from suppressing it?
Well, Kirtanasi, when pain is suppressed, right? No, it kind of takes a toll on the body, right, and on the mind, of course. It stagnates, right? It feels very heavy, like I said, on the body and on the mind, and it is definitely not the best of things. You are of course very much aware of the repercussions that that can happen because of this, right? But when you just have a vent, right? When you create something, right? No, let's say when you're feeling when you're feeling heavy, and at that point, instead of just kind of keeping it suppressed, if you just kind of vent it out, that kind of acts as a very strong energy channel, right? You see that you start to move, and then slowly, the whatever little idea that you had, it kind of it's taking shape, and that kind of helps you kind of also build that flow through which you're able to shift, right, in terms of your mindset as well, right? That shift, I think, when done on a consistent basis, moves from victimhood to participation, right? And when you do that on a very regular basis, I think that is where resilience, is born, right? It's like you realize that you're not at a war with your pain, right? It's where you, because you accepted it, right? It's like it's a part of your daily living, and it's in many ways, I mean, without wanting to sound poetic, it's like you're having a conversation with your pain, right? That is how it all works out. At least that is how it's been for me, Kirtana.
Yeah, I know. And it's so beautifully that you've said it. It's like having a conversation with your pain, which is so important because just a couple of episodes back, I was talking to Suma Tekur. And she, apart from being an energy healer, she's also an author. And, she had spoken a lot about what happens after a breakup. How do you deal with your breakup by honoring that struggle, right? From your own experience, Shravani, your personal experience, and also from the your conversations with the artists who come in from art from the heart, do you have any examples to share about how people have you know conversed with their pain with through art, and how has it helped them?
Uh, well, thanks to the Art from the Heart initiative, Kirtana, I've got the chance to meet some really amazing artists, right? Initially, if let's say someone were to look at them, you'll be perhaps they would have had their doubts about, how these people go about their art creations, right? But I think some of them, at least with some of them, I know, the very fact that they're out there wanting to kind of show their talent is one thing, right? And I think that would really mean that a lot of thought and a lot of effort has gone into it. It calls for you telling yourself that what, you can do this, you can do this, you are more than your disability, you can do it. You're good at something, let's say you're good at this particular thing, why don't you build on it, why don't you kind of make that your identity, right? I know many of the artists, one of them paints with his feet, one of them paints with her mouth, and the lady, she doesn't have arms below her elbows, and legs before below her knees, but she holds the brush like this, and she paints, right? I don't think it's an easy effort, Kirtana, right? That kind of requires a lot of conversation with yourself, right? You need to kind of constantly reassure yourself that no, you know what, no, you have something more, right? No, you're more than your disability, you have a certain ability that you can kind of really build on and really showcase. Because when I say showcase, here again, it's not like we're seeking validation from outside, but that just kind of showing it out over there, to the, or rather putting out that particular talent, for the world to see, I think speaks volumes of the kind of strength and resilience that is there in the community. Ketan, I hope that answered the
Absolutely.
question.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I can't agree more with you. I mean, I've been to quite a few of the editions of Art from the Heart, and I've met a lot of these artists. I think they're brilliant, and I think what you are doing by giving them that platform is phenomenal. The kind of work that goes into it, I think you and your family as a whole, I think you're just doing a wonderful job. Um,
Thanks, Ketan. Thank you.
and for those, I'm just going to digress a bit, especially those who are in Bangalore. Shravani holds Art from the Heart at Chitrakala Parishad every year around Feb, March, April. So please do check out the calendars and please go and visit this. It's a 2-day event and it's amazing. It's life changing, especially if you can take children for it. They really become very empathetic when they see the kind of art that comes out from these artists. Um, So, Shravani, coming back to our conversation, many people who are listening to our podcast, right, might feel drawn to art, but many of them stop themselves by saying that, I'm not creative enough. I can't draw a line straight or whatever. So, how do you, as an artist, help someone understand that healing art is not like about talent, it's not like becoming like a Michelangelo or something, but it's about honesty and permission.
I would, of course, start by saying this, so art is not meant to be, I mean, the healing aspect of art is not meant to be really seen, it's meant to be felt, right? No, for me, that is how it was, right? No, it was more of, a healing, right? When I was in the recovery phase after my accident, it was just about, that feeling, right? It's about working on something, and it wasn't necessarily meant to be seen, right? It's not like, I was going to be working on some kind of, a masterpiece or anything, right? It's just about, whatever I wanted to express at that time. I mean, some of mine, of course, because my imagination is not greatest. I use reference images and I kind of try to copy them. But there are, of course, some other artists who kind of try to work on something on their own, using their imagination. So it is not meant to be seen. It's about what you feel at that time, right? And while, of course, talent seeks validation, I think, honesty, right, it just seeks that release, and that is what we're trying to do at that point, right? Just kind of, releasing whatever feeling, right? And you don't need to necessarily know how to draw or to paint. You just need to kind of, show up as you are, right? And just kind of just give it a shot, right? When art comes from truth, right, it's rather than technique, it becomes healing, right? Otherwise, it's just some talent, and you kind of, it's like you become a professional, the perspective in itself is different. But over here it is more about healing, right? And that is where, it is more truthful, I would say. And and the most powerful, I think, creations are often, the messiest, right? And perhaps, the most imperfect ones, right? Because that is the truth, from which, they come out of. And ultimately it just kind of, comes down to this, it's about expression, right? And you can't go wrong with, how you're expressing things, correct?
So, would you be comfortable sharing, how things panned out for you after the accident, about how you got to art?
Sure, sure. So I, of course, used to sketch a little, and I'd taken a few painting lessons before my accident. But then, after that, my MBA and the eventual corporate life really didn't give me the time to kind of, pursue this hobby of mine. But after my accident, I had all the world's time, right? I still remember. I mean, I didn't want to, when I was just kind of recovering, I couldn't sit for like, more than 2 hours, right? But I just didn't want to kind of sit and watch TV. At one point, I must, of course, share this very candidly, right? At that time, my body plate was very, very weak. So we used to have someone come home and lift me up. My father must and this person used to lift me up from from the bed and put me onto the wheelchair, and of course, make me seated in the living room. And then after 2 hours or so, put me back. I didn't want to just sit there and watch TV. I didn't want to do that, right? So that is when I kind of took to art. I started sketching. I had a few sketchbooks. I started sketching, and I started doing it on a regular basis, right? So I knew that the end of 2 hours, this person is coming, and we used to pay him, right? So I had to kind of make it count, right? So I wanted to kind of have a finished piece. While of course, you will have many of the senior art professionals saying that perhaps might not be the best of approach, and you should kind of pace it out and all. But for me, maybe at that point, I was not in a thing to look at it in any other way. Like I am putting in a lot of effort despite the pain. It was initially meant to be a distraction from the pain, right? So I am sitting here despite my pain, and if I want to, I mean, if I'm sitting for 2 hours and if I'm paying someone to kind of help me with this, and then I better have a finished piece, right? It might not be the best outcomes, right? But I just want to have a finished piece. Like I said, it is of course debatable, but that is my stance. That was my stance at that time, and it kind of helped me also, right? So what that did was it kind of got me to do this on a very regular basis, right? And as my condition got a little better, I was, of course, unable to sit for a little longer, and then I started to, I went beyond sketching. I started with charcoal, and then, some black and white acrylic painting. And after that, no, I took to color pastels, and I thought maybe, I should, it's about time I bring some color back to life. And I started with pastels, and then, I got a teacher who helped me with the basics of oil painting, and I worked on that for a couple of years, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And of course, parallelly, as I was getting better, I got the opportunity of displaying my works at some of the exhibitions. I got the opportunity to live paint also, regarding some important causes about disability, and a few other things as well. And in, like I said, so initially it was meant to be a distraction. Eventually, it went on to do a lot more. And I of course got to meet a few other artists with various visibilities during the art exhibition. And at that time, now of course things are a lot different. There are multiple platforms via which the artists are able to display their works. But that time, I don't suppose there were any such platform. So I built that platform, and it's gone on to do a lot more, right? Not just in terms of my creative pursuits, but also in terms of my confidence, and maybe my entrepreneurial skills also. And basically, what it's done is, Kirtana, it's kind of helped me uh, look at life. Now of course I look at art as a basic, a thing for a purpose, right? And maybe making this the platform a lot bigger and better, and making it accessible to a lot more people from across the country. Now of course we do have artists. We'd start off with 12, 15 artists. Now we have a team of 50 artists. And I would of course want to make this a very stronger community, so that the talent of these people is shown to the world, because I think it's incredible. You yourself have seen the works, right? I think it's incredible, and I think it ought to be shown. So it is in many ways, while it was meant to be a distraction, it's gone on to do a lot more. And yeah, in many ways, it's helped me bring some color back to life also, Kirtan.
Absolutely. In fact, I have a few of those artworks hanging on my walls as well. So thank you for giving them the platform and bridging the gap, between their work and us. So, Shravani, I want to go a little deeper into this when we talk about emotions, right? So there's always this grief, there's anger, there's shame, and some of them are just even too overwhelming to even give it a name, especially when people are going through a traumatic phase, right? Like yours was, it was caused by an accident. There are some others who were born with certain
Yeah.
disabilities. So how do you think, or how have you seen in your experience, art providing a very safe container for emotions that feel unsafe to express otherwise?
Well, Kirtana, see, I think some emotions are a little too raw for language. Like, we spoke about it at the beginning, right? No, so what happens is, when you are in an emotional state of mind, right? The mind at times, gets a little cluttered, right? And to kind of, vent it out via words, in a verbal format, perhaps, comes with its own cons, right? So that is where, that is where art is a safe spot, right? Now, art kind of, became, I've known of you, it kind of, became a container of sorts for them. It kind of, helps them hold that grief, or let's say that anger, uh, or maybe I wouldn't, okay, maybe not shame, but no, there is no fear of being exposed, right? So art kind of helps you do that, and you're not forced to kind of label it. You're not forced to relieve it. Whatever you're feeling right now, you're feeling it at that point, and you're just kind of venting it out, right? You just kind of simply want to kind of have that safe space, right? And I think art has been that for me and many other artists, right? And what it also does, it kind of helps you relax, right? At one point, you perhaps are going through something really overwhelming, and when you just kind of sit down, it can be with maybe with a palette and a canvas, and you're just painting something, or let's say just something as simple as sketching, or many of them of course choose digital art. What it does is, it kind of relaxes them completely, right? So what art does is, it kind of gives them that, gives us that that safe space, wherein it's really okay for us to kind of hold on to that emotion, that feeling, right? Regardless of what it is, it's okay to kind of hold it and release it via art. I hope that answered your question, Kirtana.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think, yeah, what you said was right. At some point, expression turns into transformation, right? So, when does art stop just becoming an outlet and start becoming a tool for inner change for anybody per se, not just someone who's kind of grieving or going through something traumatic? So, how does any person recognize that shift internally? Like, are there any specific signs?
I don't suppose it's like, there is, okay, one fine day you just, get up and realize, okay, fine, what now, there's enough of, let's say, survival now, let's kind of, shift gears and move to transformation. It doesn't really happen that way. It happens over a period of time. So initially, like I said, it could be, for me, of course, it was more about, a distraction. Then it was, let's say, just about, wanting to survive in many ways, and then wanting to just kind of, build something when you're in that phase, just kind of, have that outlet for emotion, you kind of start creating something, initially, like I said, an outlet, and then maybe slowly to understand yourself, right? And then maybe over a period of time, you kind of start internalizing it, right? And then it eventually, at least for me, I know that's how it was. Eventually, it kind of went on to feel like a quiet strength, right? No, that you feel a sense of normalcy returning, right?
Hmm.
And you begin to kind of also start trusting yourself again, right? It doesn't happen that easily, especially when you kind of gone through an experience like this. It no longer just kind of starts acting as a vent for your pain. What it also does, it slowly starts giving meaning and maybe even direction. In my case, that's what has happened. It's kind of given me the direction and purpose, and I think that is where transformation begins, correct? So when you are clear about that the meaning and the direction, right? No, it's about taking it to the next step, right? And I think all of this is a gradual but not transformative journey, Kirtana.
Absolutely. Shravani, again, we've spoken quite a few times about this in the past as well. So, where you talk about cultivating a try me mindset than a why me. So, how does creative expression build this emotional courage and self trust over time, especially in moments where life feels very uncertain or unfair?
Well, see, the thing is, ultimately, for me, it's about every time you create something, right? Despite, let's say, your doubts, your discomfort, right? You kind of send a message to yourself, right? Saying, what, no, I can do this, right? Let's say I'm able to, like I gave you the example, 2 hours, I was in pain, but still, it's kind of said. So if I'm able to push myself to kind of sit and finish something for 2 hours, in some way or the other, it's like I'm telling myself that I can do this, right? So that is what you kind of slowly, like I said, internalize. You kind of keep telling yourself that you can face this, and that when done repeatedly, it kind of slowly helps build that resilience, of course, and also that emotional courage, right? And over time, you slowly kind of start trusting that inner voice again. Like like I said initially, you start having those conversations. There's that the conversation starts to take shape, right? And it kind of starts to be very reassuring at times. Sometimes, of course, it can be very how do I say, distraught, right? But many a time when you kind of do it on a consistent basis, what it does is it kind of gets you to trust yourself again, and then uh, like I said, it's just about your emotions, right? Now your release, your resilience, and all of it are, let's say, come to fore, and you realize that you're able to manage things a lot better. And I suppose creativity, driven. Creativity along with consistency kind of slowly becomes a practice for life. It kind of helps you realize that showing up is what matters. Trying is what matters, and allowing yourself to be imperfect is what matters, right? It is a gradual journey, but these small little things, I think really help. At least for me, I know it's helped tremendously, and I know many other artists, for whom it's really helped. There are, of course, few, regardless of your disability or ability, there are few of them who tend to be perfectionists, right? They kind of if they're doing something, they would want it to be done a certain way, and if it doesn't turn out, the piece doesn't turn out to be the way they imagine it to be, they of course get very frustrated. But that is natural, right? And that is, of course, one off thing, right? They of course start off by kind of redoing the entire thing, but that again is like a different journey in itself, right? No, so they're able to kind of see things very differently, right? The second time around, they're able to make the corrections, right? What realize where they went wrong the first time around, make those corrections, and really enhance the thing. So uh, while of course it might sound like transactional, I think it has a lot more a deeper meaning, right? It's all about the way you look at it, Kirtan, ultimately, because I mean it is art, correct? It's all about the way you look at it,
Correct.
and the way they kind of go through the whole creation process. Also, I think is very much in line to this. Yeah.
Hmm. No, that's true. That's true. Um, okay, let's move to the body, for a moment. So, do you feel that the act of creating art itself brings about changes in the nervous system, like slows it down, grounds it, brings more clarity? And just to add on to this, like, how have you seen art support emotional healing in a way words often cannot? You've answered this, but maybe if we can look at it more from a body perspective, the nervous system perspective.
Sure, Kirtan. Actually, it very much does that. No, so the it kind of slows the nervous system, right? No, it calms. Okay, maybe not slow. It calms the nervous system, and it kind of grounds you in the present moment, because it's about what you're feeling at that time, and right now how you're expressing it, and it kind of really helps you stay grounded at that time. And the body, I think, when, let's say, you're making a conscious effort to, one, of course, let's say, I'm in a very disturbed phase, then I realize, okay, I think I ought to kind of paint, that's going to help me. So I sit and I'm kind of working on something, right? While of course I am really engaged in the artistic creation, right? And what it does is, it is kind of slowing my body, because I perhaps was a little enraged or whatever, I was a little disturbed. So the emotion is kind of getting diverted. It is now, of course, towards this, about creating something. And that, I wouldn't say it's all peaceful suddenly. It's not like you're suddenly in a zen kind of a state, but then slowly you realize, because of that transition in the emotion, right? You're kind of you're trying to channelize that feeling, that emotion, right, very consciously. So it kind of slowly softens the nervous system. It slows the nervous system, it calms the nervous system, and it, one, of course, while it is kind of grounding you in the present moment, what it also does is the body then starts feeling a little safe, not really threatened, right? So with words, of course, and there is always the challenge of, like I said, feeling a little judged or threatened.
Mm.
Art kind of bypasses that kind of overthinking we tend to do, right? And it's kind of eh, speaking directly to the senses kinds, that is the reason, it can kind of really help you go calm, right? It kind of regulate things. And towards the end of it, you realize that it helps you with that clarity, right? When conversation can feel a little exhausting. I must, of course, share this thing. uh, I think a few years ago, I was, I think on one particular day, I was supposed to meet with a friend. That didn't happen, and then there were a lot of developments. I will, of course, spare you the details, but no, there were a lot of things because of which I was really disturbed. Right
Mm.
then, I thought, okay, I just know I wanted to kind of just sit and do something. I wanted to pen it down, but somehow I wasn't able to kind of do justice to that. So I kind of started painting, and I think I tried some kind of an abstract thing. That was not something that I'd worked on in the past, but this, I was just doing something. And while I was doing it, it was like, initially it was like, the steam was coming out of my ears, kind of. That was the state I was in. But then when I actually sat and worked on it, like, the focus completely shifted. And while, of course, the artwork was more of a reflection of the state of mind that time, and I suppose, of people in my close coterie, they saw it, like, Shavni, were you okay when you did this? Was there something bothering you? I was like, maybe it was, but I'm glad it's come out this way, instead of me, let's say, going and yelling at this friend, or things could have gone from bad to worse, right? But I'm glad that I chose this instead of that. And I happened to show this to my friend also. She kind of realized that that I was disturbed by all these things, and we slowly kind of work things out, and on amicable terms, and it all went on to be okay. So the reason I mentioned this is because it kind of one, of course, is helping you release all that, the pent up energy, negative or positive, that's okay. But then there is something else, instead of, let's say, you yelling at someone, just kind of sitting in and working on a small little art creation, right? It's not like I'm putting it out for someone to kind of judge it. It's not like I'm putting it out for sale. It's just a reflection of what you're at that time. So at the end of it, I felt a lot calmer, right? And I actually, as let's say, a mature person, I kind of shared this with my friend, and she realized that this is what was happened. I mean, this is what had happened. And then we were able to have a conversation after that, right? So I think that is what it does to the nervous system, Kirtana. There have been a few other instances, right? I remember I was in the hospital, the Ayurvedic hospital, undergoing treatment. And there's, I think, there's a particular kid that I'd seen over there, and was the plight of that kid was rather disturbing, right? And then I just kind of sat, and of course, using some reference images, I worked out on a small little thing, a small little of where the resemblance to that kid was stronger, right? I just happened to show that to the mother who was there along with the kid, and she felt so happy, right? It's like, I had not looked at my kid this way, right? It's like, this was a kid, with some sort of a weird disability, right? His legs were in the 90-degree angle, so he couldn't really kind of stand or sit properly, right? I kind of just sketched him in a different format. Like, Shravani, I had not really kind of, seen my kid this way. And, thank you so much. The mother had tears in her eyes, So it's just how do I put it? Just one, of course, while it is a vent of sort, it's also maybe helps you look at things in a different way and helps people, even if it's for the smallest of movement, and it just gets them to see something a little differently, and maybe there is that tiny glimmer of hope also, no?
Right, right. No, that's so true. Um, let's continue, in the same streak of emotion. So people, many of them are in fact, dealing with emotional heaviness in everyday life, right? So there's work stress, there's relationship pain, there are identity questions, which has become like a big thing today. So how can these small imperfect acts of creativity support healing without becoming like another thing to do right?
Hmm. Well, that is the beauty of art. It doesn't have to be, let's say, you're having a bad day or whatever. It's not like, you sit and, you're expected to kind of, come up with, a major creation, something. It's not like a grand gesture that's needed, right? All you need to do is just sit down, and even if it is just, painting or sketching or something for half an hour, even if it is, let's say, a simple little doodle, right? No, that will change your mind, kind of, helps you ease that pressure. And it is not another task to be kind of, perfected. It's just about, you kind of, venting it out. And these small acts kind of remind you that we are a lot more than, let's say, our struggles, right? Just sit down and, work on something. I remember there was a phase when I was kind of trying to find the right medium for me to kind of work on, because oil paints, while I was, of course, enjoying it, it had some health hazards. I wasn't able to continue it, and I was not too sure which kind of, medium to kind of work on. It was getting really frustrating, because, I was doing this for quite some time, and suddenly, when there was this break, right? No, it was disturbing. And what happens is, of course, you would agree with me, the universe is a different way of showing things. And when you're in that state of mind, it's like, almost everything, negative is happening, and you don't know how best to kind of, express, or what is the right way to kind of go about it. And so I was going through that very weird phase. And I remember this again, was in a different time period when I was in the hospital, right? So there, nothing, I just kind of sat, and uh, up until then, I'd not really worked on, pen works. I just, got these nice small little pens, and started doing it on a very small, on a very regular basis, right? Small piece. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be, a grand piece, right? Something as simple as, a small little monkey, a small little turtle, right? A small little fish in the thing. There was a stream, a water, a pond over there, and with a lot of fishes over there. So just kind of started doing that, and that kind of, helped me so much, right? These small things, like I said, it doesn't have to be a grand art creation. These small little things, if, let's say, uh, done on a regular basis, kind of, really helps you, how do I put it, feel less exhausted, yeah, right? No, uh, like I said, it's not about wanting to be perfect, just about, using, let's say, whatever. I mean, when at least doing this for a while, so that was something which perhaps, I could tell myself, what, you're good at this, maybe you should just try this kind. And if you do this on a daily basis, it kind of uh, gently kind of, puts you back to normalcy, or let's say you return to being yourself, right? These small little acts kind of do that. And while, of course, it's very simply put, it kind of, does uh, amazing things to your state of mind, Keerthana. It kind of, really puts you back to that zone wherein, you, instead of, struggling or looking for answers, you kind of, tell yourself that, what, this is okay, this is all manageable, I can do this, it's okay. Even if it's a small little thing, I'm okay with, doing one thing at a time, one smaller thing at a time. Right. So I think that is what is needed, considering, the kind of a thing that we all go through, right? Regardless of uh, uh, the work pressures, or, the family pressures, or a lot of things that we kind of take on. When you're able to kind of tell yourself, what, this is something that I can manage. This is my strength. I can actually build on it, right? I can work on it, and let me just take it, one day at a time, one week at a time, right? I think it kind of, really changes the way you look at things, and changes the way you kind of go about things also, Kirtana. I hope that answered your
Mhm.
question, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Shravani, finally, if art could offer one gentle message to someone who is in pain right now, what would you think it would say?
I think I mentioned this already, right? Now, this is something that I think really resonates with me, right? So I suppose art would say, when you're ready, I will help you bring some color back to life. So that is how it's been with me, and that is the reason it kind of, resonates with me so strongly, Kirtana. But I think I really see that as a possibility. Yeah.
I think that was a very beautiful statement to close with. So, thank you, Shravani, for your honesty, your presence, and the quiet power that I've seen you carrying, for so many years. And this conversation definitely does remind me, and I'm sure a lot of even our viewers would resonate that healing doesn't always come from just understanding. It's also about allowing
Yeah,
yourself to flow
yeah,
with life and allowing your hands to move, color to speak, and even allowing your body to release what the mind cannot hold anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, so to everyone listening out here, you don't need to be an artist to heal through art. You only need to be willing to listen to what your inner world is trying to express and is asking you to express it in the external world. So, thank you once again for tuning in. And this is Heal with Divinity. I'm your host, Keerthana Venkatesh. And I'll see you again in the next episode with another interesting topic. But until then, be gentle with your nervous system, be honest with your heart, and trust that healing will always find the language that it needs to. And art is probably one of those languages. Thank you, Shravani, once again for being on our show.
Thank you, Keithan. It's always a pleasure to join you in these conversations.